I'm Professor Mark Power, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you here this evening to listen to Rob Carden deliver today's Chief Constable's lecture. And I think it's true to say that Rob's had a fascinating and really interesting career in policing since first joining Merseyside Police in 1992. And he joins us today in his capacity as the force's new Chief Constable. His journey to the top has been remarkable, taking in a broad range of command experience, including firearms, public order, counter-terrorism, football and conference policing. And he's also led some unique challenges. In the early stages of the pandemic, Rob was Gold Commander for the successful repatriation of British nationals from Wuhan province to Arrow Park Hospital. And he went on to manage Merseyside's response to all of the phases of the pandemic, and a tremendous accomplishment, for which he received a national commendation for outstanding leadership. Other notable roles include his command responsibilities for high-profile, high-threat operations, such as the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting, the Grand National, and the response to the terrorist incident at the Women's Hospital. His successes are based on values that align with our own here at Liverpool John Moores University, around collaborating with partners to share expertise and best practice, and engaging with and understanding our communities. We're proud of our strong and positive relationship with Merseyside Police, and it's great to see so many former Chief Constables here this evening. And again, it's a relationship which has gone from strength to strength, and we're looking forward to developing that partnership further under Rob's stewardship. He's a great example and role model for our students here at the Liverpool Centre for Advanced Policing, and I'm looking forward to hearing his insight this evening. So it's my great pleasure to firstly welcome Rob back to Merseyside, and now hand over to him for the Chief Constable's lecture.
Thank you very much for those kind words, and thanks for everybody for joining me tonight. I know it's cold and wet, and there's football on as well. It's very, very good of you to come out and join me. I didn't realise there was going to be an introduction in that way, so I'm not going to give you the normal sorts of introduction in terms of what I've done and all that. It's all a bit sort of predictable and boring. I was just going to tell you about, if you hadn't met me before, a little bit about before I joined the police. That's why sort of coming back to Merseyside Police is so special to me. So my affiliation with the force goes back into the 1970s, because my father was a police officer for over 33 years. So Christmas parties, I was at the police club. I watched divisional football at Fairfield. I was at Mather Avenue with my Alton Towers. So if you were a training sergeant back in the day, and forgive me for colleagues who've heard this before, but there'll be people in the room that haven't, I won't mention it again. But the sergeants were the duty officer and stayed over the weekends. They looked after the estate over the weekend. So basically, as kids, myself and my brothers went up to Mather Avenue, and we had full-size snooker table, we had the gym, five-a-side goals. We used to race each other up and down the block floors on the chairs. And it may interest you to know as well that cold water therapy wasn't developed in a posh house in Heswell. It was actually developed in the swimming baths in Mather Avenue, where you had to dive for those blocks. It was absolutely freezing. But all of those things really are memories, including charity events. And I had two brothers with cystic fibrosis, sadly. Dad used to do loads of charity events at Mather Avenue. I was even an underage football player for the charity footy sides at 16, possibly even 15. I'm not keen on the term ringer. But there's many, many more examples, but it's not just about starting in 1992 as a constable. It's been part of my life right through, so coming back here is a very unexpected but a very welcome return to the force. And it's quite daunting really. It's come a little bit earlier than I'd have liked, but I haven't asked for this, I'm not sought it. It's something that happens each year and I don't let people down, but I am standing before the glitterati of Merseyside Policing. We've got Professor Steve, Sir John, Sir Andy, and of course my predecessor Serena, who led the force with such dignity and assurance during the considerable challenges challenges the force faced in recent years. And last but not least, Police and Crime Commissioner Emily Spurrell, who gave me the chance to be here, so thank you. So the context of this is that Merseyside's a great force, it's a good force, lots of good people. It's been led consistently well over the years. But any organisation's risk register will tell you that there's always room for improvement, whether it's a police force, a private sector, public sector, it doesn't matter. So that's where leadership morale is particularly important. The title of this lecture, it's not really a lecture, it's a talk/ramble. It's called the Leadership-Morale Nexus. I had to pick a posh title because it's particularly content light. It's also devoid of any academic references whatsoever, so I wouldn't be worrying with your pens. Honestly, it's a complete waste of ink. Whilst there's no silver bullet, as a leader you've got to keep trying to understand yourself and your effect on other people, the people who have the good fortune or the complete misfortune to be led by you. I'll briefly cover the following things: some policing challenges, I'll talk about the implications of those challenges, the importance of morale, leadership and its connection, problem solvers, and a little bit on future leaders. And hopefully, if I take it really slow, I can take it to the full hour and avoid any questions whatsoever. That's the plan. So, health warning before I start. These are my personal thoughts. This is my 34th year in policing. I've had knocks, setbacks, personal health challenges, serious ones, I'm a family. We've had disappointments, but I don't think there's anyone who knows me in policing would say I haven't put myself on offer. I think I'm entitled to a view on policing. As a Chief Constable, I absolutely should have a view on policing. That said, it doesn't stop me totally respecting your views if they're different to mine, because that's what it's all about, opinions. So, let's get rid of that. To the slides. We're going to go off piece, I think. Right. So I feel like every time I do a lecture or a talk, we do the same thing all the time and say policing's facing so many different challenges. I'll just go through a bit there. Finance is back on, isn't it? It's so difficult. We talk about the uplift for neighbourhood policing, but Merseyside's got to save £30 million over 5 years. That's good. Imagine what 30 million looks like on the front here. It's a vast sum of money. So what are we stopping doing to do that? It's incredibly difficult and challenging. You'll have seen now that the discussion on mega forces has suddenly come back, the 43 forces. 7 forces are now not sure they're even viable. One Chief Constable took a force quite recently. I think they've been there 2 or 3 months and put their hands up at Chief Cons Council to say this force is not viable financially. So that debate has come up on the rails. I'm not saying I'm against that or for it. There might be reason for it. What I don't want is for police reform and all the pipe work that needs to be done to be overshadowed by a debate on what is it, someone described it as everyone's favourite parlour game, what's the number of forces, should it be 25? Well, I like the number 32, what about 40? All of that, because there's some proper, serious stuff that needs doing with the policing model. I'll come on to that in a minute. So political reform, it's a far more interventionist government. You've got police reform in the white paper, I'll touch on very shortly, and also safer streets. Who wouldn't aspire to what the government said? Who wouldn't want violence against women and girls and national emergency to reduce by 50%? Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want knife crime to be reduced by 50%? Who wouldn't want a strong neighbour policing? I said, but actually in doing that, we're going to be held to account as we should be, and we've got to really sort of get our ducks in a row and make sure we deliver. Technology and data. I'm the National Digital Data and Technology Lead. I'll come on to that in a second as well. So I chair the coordination committee, okay? Can anyone guess, anyone know how much you spend on digital data and technology a year in UK policing? Give us a number, go on. Dave Ambrose, give me a number.
Yes sir, 400 million.
Higher.
2 billion.
2 billion, so you've been listening to a conversation I've just had you, haven't you, outside? Spot on, 2 billion, 1 billion locally, 1 billion nationally, okay? We've got a part-time chief leading it, okay, who was press-ganged into doing it by 2 chiefs, 2 deputies and an ACC. I had meetings with the Home Office before I'd even taken over the portfolio. I'd even got a chief's job, okay? So when I took over, I shouldn't have been the chief to lead such an important coordination committee. I spent 31 years avoiding the company of chief constables, okay? Wouldn't want to be anywhere near them, okay? Now it's unavoidable since becoming one. It should have been someone with more reach in the room who knew the Chief Constable. I didn't know them all. Okay, that's not my network then. So it should have been someone with influence. We didn't. We spent just over 2 years working in terms of fix, converge and merge, so we can lift and shift what we've done in terms of digital data and technology into the new National Centre of Policing. That's the plan, what I'm trying to do. I don't want to be passive. I want to be on the front foot. Now I've taken over Merseyside by quirk of fate. People are saying to me, you've got to give up DDAT. Now I've made the relationships, we've made progress. Do you see the dichotomy there? Do you see the challenge, how we've got this so far wrong? The model for policing is underpowered and amateurish. If I could describe it in a cricketing analogy, I'd say it's Sunday League cricket going in to play the Ashes in Australia. There's two things for certain there. You're going to get hurt, it's going to be painful, and secondly, you ain't going to win. Okay? It needs reform desperately. I'll come on to that in a minute. Demand, complexity and severity, we all know about that. Community tensions, look at the issues in Southport. I watched from afar with just admiration how the police and the chief dealt with it. Incredible. But it's more polarised views in life, isn't it? Extreme views, quite nasty narratives as well. It's very, very difficult. Ipsos survey, 84% of people surveyed believe that UK is a more divided place, and personally, from instance, I would agree with that. Workforce pressures, we've got 35% of the workforce, 35% with under 5 years experience. That links in with supervisors. Morale is an issue, capability is an issue, underrepresentation, ethnic minority colleagues is an issue. The peel inspections, the grades are going backwards. They haven't been changed in any material way. The grades are just going backwards. Public confidence in policing, Pratt, Vogue and Angelini. We just had the Panorama programme the other week. Well, I mean, my wife's here tonight. I won't embarrass her where she's sitting, but she left halfway through, couldn't watch it. It was a depressing watch, a really difficult watch. And the thing I'd say there is, please do not think that this is a Metropolitan Police issue. You would be very naive to do that. I came through the gatehouse, so I get in for about between 6 o'clock and 20 past 6, I'm at the desk. I was coming through the gatehouse in the morning. By quirk of fate, that day it was staffed. Usually, we have to go in through the front because the barrier's broken. But there was someone staffing the barrier at that stage. It was dawn. Basically said, "Oh, do you see that programme tonight, boss?" I said, "Oh yeah, it's depressing, wasn't it?" She says, "Oh, I don't know, it's terrible." Well, at least that's the Met. We haven't got those problems in Merseyside. I'm thinking we've got issues in every police force. It's a naive person that stands before you and says, we're perfect. I won't go through all those we've had. There's so many different times, but it's just to make the point, okay? Gavin Stevens is the head of MPCC. He is extremely bright. I think he's a mathematician from Oxbridge. He's never been burdened, unlike many chief constables, with ego. He's absolutely level, grounded, absolutely spot on. He's very sensible. There's nothing in it from him police reform. He just believes in it. He's at the arrowhead of all this, pushing like mad to get police reform through. The original cost was something in the region of 1.9 billion. Okay, there's no way we're going anywhere near 1.9 billion. So it's going to be a much diluted version. What that means, what can be done, is your guess as good as mine. The white paper's written, it's just ready to be announced when it suits the government, but it's sat there waiting to go, and we wait to see what happens. It'll be very interesting. But if we go back to technology, Professor Paul Taylor will say to you, I think he uses 70, 20, 10%, where 10% is pure innovation. We're spending 97% on maintenance of legacy, a patchwork of legacy IT systems. They're the problems we've got. Then you've got other things like CT, citizen organised crime, the NCA, there's all sorts of other debates, and then obviously a number of forces have come on as well. So the white paper on police reform, let's see what it brings. So you see all those challenges and all those issues nationally, how does it sort of convert itself into how people feel as police officers and police staff? You can see there, you could split that in two basically. You put a line down the middle. The right hand side gives you cause for optimism. There are good things there. Like, 4 and 5 said the team pulls together to get the job done. It's admirable. But when you look to the left hand side, you can see the pressures coming in there. 67% feel fatigued and exhausted. 46% feel burnt out. And you've got things like on the 67 there, feel fatigued or physically exhausted. Sometimes, and I've got evidence of this, so it's a fact. Sometimes we don't help ourselves, because I've been in briefings where inspectors have gone, I know you run off your feet, I know it's difficult, but they want you to do ... Sometimes it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and the story is in the telling, and that's why positivity is really, it can't be positive all the time, but sometimes if you use that kind of language, it's very, very difficult. But of course, there are huge challenges that need to be sorted out. I'm not saying that. Next slide. The last slide on the woes, really. So this is how it all filters out in terms of morale, which is really one half of the discussion today. So the Police Federation of England Wales, their pay and morale survey, 88% of respondents felt morale was low or very low in their force. The Supers Association, a third. So what we're saying is a third of our senior leaders feel that they had low personal motivation levels. So a third of our leaders aren't motivated. That's a problem. Supers Association are also saying that 38% felt well valued and 66% felt morale was low in the force. And actually, if you just look at the state of policing, I think it's on page 43. I think Sir Andy Cook said he was concerned by the poor state of morale in policing. As another comment, leadership must inspire the workforce. So it's not really a point of issue really to talk about morale being a problem. Okay. The next slide is the power of morale. I don't go in for all these management type slides, but I do like this quote. It's really good. The lad on the left is Colonel Richard Kemp. I think he was East Anglia Regiment. He was Afghanistan, Iraq. He's become more known recently for some other views, but about 2 or 3 years ago, I was listening to Ukraine the Latest. I was listening to a program about, Ukraine and the invasion by Russia, what was happening. It's quite an interesting program. I found it quite interesting anyway. And he was asked the question, why is it Ukraine have done so well in the early stages of the conflict? What is it that they've done? And these things will be lessons from the end of that conflict. Hopefully it happens sooner rather than later. And there are sorts of seeds of, some seeds of hope potentially. But it's about agility, speed, adaptability, innovation, national will, and societal influence. And he boiled it down to say, people believe in what they're doing. The morale is there. And then you look at the other side, Russia with their troops being forced through all sorts of means to go to Ukraine, ill-equipped, ill-led. And he was trying to say basically that he used a quote at that point explaining it from Napoleon on the right. So there's 2 quotes there. A leader is a dealer in hope. That's where that comes from, Napoleon. But the focus is on the top one. So an army's effectiveness depends on its size, training and experience and morale. But morale is worth more than any other the factors combined. So what that translates to is morale is to the physical as 3 is to 1. That's what he's saying there. That's how important it is. So if you think of all the challenges you talked about in the previous slides, how that filters down to all the morale and all the issues that we're having, that's how important morale is, particularly the challenge my colleagues in Merseyside have faced, certainly in recent years. Positivity is absolutely essential. Does anyone know what that is? The clue's on the top there. So it's a welfare dog, okay? So nobody in the room needs to get offended. It's an AI welfare dog. So I've made it up, okay? It doesn't exist, okay? It's my dog. I've called it Dave, okay? So that's my dog, Dave. I'm going to use it as an example in a minute, but don't get offended. It's not a real dog, okay? So please don't write in or send me an email on it. There's no need to be offended. So, when I was doing my work, research as a prospective candidate to come back to Merseyside, I spoke to 73 people, and I spoke to one person, head of crime, really excellent, talking about ideas, challenges, and all the rest of it. They mentioned that they'd had a difficulty with one colleague, a DC, who had 45 plus crime reports, had gotten upset before they got into work because they couldn't see the wood for the trees, and she was saying it needs to be spread out slightly differently. So, okay. So, anonymising all the bits and bobs, I spoke to the next person that came in, another senior person, said, listen, they're talking about, people are telling me that about numbers of crime reports that are slightly disproportionate. What's your thoughts on it? What do you want me to do if I became Chief Constable? And they said, I think we should look at welfare dogs and bring the welfare dogs in. So I just looked at them and said, what, a welfare dog? So we've got a DC with 45 crimes, and what's the welfare dog? And I've got this vision of the welfare dog either writing a crime allocation policy or taking about 4 of the crimes off them. I'm thinking, what is it you're going to do? All they're going to do is get like hairs on the trousers. Well, what? Take me through it. So say if my wife leaves me, okay? Say my wife leaves me this weekend, and she's entitled to the amount of time I spend at work. But if she does, if I stroke that dog, you know she's not coming back, don't you? You know that. It's not a magic dog. If I'm short of money, okay, and I stroke the dog, I'm not going to get 200 quid in my wallet. It just doesn't. There's a place for them. I'm not anti-welfare dog. But the whole problem about this with morale is you've got to be problem solvers. Leaders have to solve problems. Not short term, if possible, sometimes it has to happen, but they've got to be viable, sustainable, sensible solutions. That's how I think of it. No gimmicks, no nothing. Solve the problem. Find out what to do. I've got my son here. Don't worry about me and your mum. I was only joking. Nobody wins the lottery and gives it back. So, I've gone ahead here. Oh, we're all over the place. Right. Leadership is solving problems. Solving problems. The day soldiers stop bringing you their problems is the day you've stopped leading them. So what we don't want to no bad news zones. We want everyone to say the problems and understand them. But we've got to put ourselves in a position where you find out the problems. I'll come on to visibility rotors and put leaderships on briefings and some of the comments I've had in a past life about that. Because you might think everyone thinks that's a common sense. I've got some nods around the room that, yeah, they need to be. Well, let me tell you some of the comments. You'll be aghast at some of the comments I'm going to make because it hasn't all filtered through. And this is not my previous force who was with. Fantastic force, doing great stuff, brilliant HMIC report, really good HMIC report. But nothing's perfect. Every organisation can improve. So finding the problem is trust. They've got to trust you to tell you the problems, and you've got to go out to get them. You can't do it through an email, and you can't do it through a refracted organisation structure. Just as if I give a strategy, my new strategy in the new year, which will come out in roadshows in January and February, I've got to make sure that penetrates the layer of the organisation, because it's like a lens, isn't it? Light gets refracted. So at that message at the operational layer, is it still intact and how it was intended? And that's the importance. You've got to make sure it is and find out yourself. And that means not being passive. So, I've taken a few early decisions. We've taken a few early decisions, Chief Officers and I, early doors. So we've reviewed the 4 strategy. We're trying to do tangible stuff and help. You've got to have a view. You've got to do stuff. So we reviewed the 4 strategy. The roadshows are in January and February. We've reviewed the promotion processes. Okay. So I don't like the standard of briefing, not in Merseyside, in policing. I think sergeants should give better briefing. So for sergeants' promotion processes now, they will give a briefing, they will watched giving the briefing. And I'll come on to that in a minute. And then they'll give an interview. And then we'll keep the rest of it as like it is. A scene presentation, so people aren't having sleepless nights before it comes. Is it on Peruvian basket weaving, or is it on something to do with policing? It'll be on police. It'll be something to do with policing, oddly. But they'll have the thing a week in advance, and then we'll have the interview. Okay. So everybody knows exactly where they are. It'll be latest January a schedule of when all the promotion procedures are for every rank, so that people know what they're doing and where they're going with it. That's what I'm going to try and do. The other issue is in terms of, I don't know if you heard this, it's not my idea, I copied off Lancashire. I went to interview with Sasha Hatchett, the deputy there, and when I was interviewing the dep, I could see him reading off pieces of paper. He'd made notes and taken them in. I thought, hang on, he's taking his notes in there. I couldn't say anything, but actually at the end of the interview, Sasha said, Rob, I'm sorry, I should have said, we've started a new thing, this thing now where you get the questions half an hour now, and half an hour before, you can make quick notes and take the notes in. It helps colleagues with neurodiversity. I thought, that sounds good, that. I know loads of good people who struggle with it. That could be really good. We're going to do that as well. So I've just copied off Lancashire. Combe, Chief Officer Morning Briefing, used to be at 8:30 till 10, it's now from 8 till 9, it's all finished by 9. There's an operational pace setter, the deputy chairs it for visibility, that goes from, it'll be 9 till 9:30, 9:45. So by the time Combe is finished and the pace setter, we'll still have finished from the previous Combes half an hour or quarter of an hour early, got 2 meetings in and done a load of visibility for the DEP, which I think is really important. We're going to copy it with an organisational pace setter. Okay. By the way, the operational pace setter, I did it when I was in Cumbria. I went to Humberside to see. It's a big ask for a deputy, particularly a small force. We've only got a couple of ACCs, and I'm the deputy. I'm thinking, huge investment. Is it worth it? Spoke to Lee Freeman. I said, look, Lee Freeman said it's the best thing I've ever done. He said, too many of my colleagues, senior colleagues, are flying blind. Do the pace setter. You'll be amazed what you find out. You'll be amazed what you can influence. Worked for me. HMIC like it. We're doing it. We're going to do the same thing with the organisational pace setter. One team, get them in. Great opportunity for the deputy. Remember Big Wings? Big Wings back in the day. Bernard Hogan Housing brought them in, I think. So they're back. They're called Vanguard. Coming to a place near you soon. All operational police officers are on our terms. Big operations. Be slightly different because police staff will be out with us as well. Senior police staff. Because it's like NASA speaking to the cleaner, what are you doing? I'm putting a man on the moon. Okay, everyone is there. If you're not doing something towards public safety, you are broadly irrelevant. Okay? So if you've got fleet, if you've got estate, how is what you're doing contributing to the war effort in terms of public safety for operational policing? Have you seen an operation? Have you seen the briefing? Do you know what goes on? If you haven't, it's about time you did. And that's all the efforts to make one team land even more than it has done in the past. Veteran units uplifted. We've got an action plan. We're going to do an internal video for quality strands in terms of panorama. Very, very disappointing. Uniform review. We need a bit of flexibility in the material. I won't go into that any further. The In Touch has just gone out. The Futures programme. Review the HR, force structure, savings challenge, all brought in as under the Futures programme. Sounds a bit more aspirational because it's not all about savings. Hoping to do regional operations with ARIS potentially, see how that goes. And I can go on, but crime investigation, we're going to spread the load there. We're going to spread the load. That's just the approach I want to take. The senior leaders visibility rota. Okay, so went up to Cumbria for 3 years. Fantastic place, really made welcome. Very small force, had COVID. In Merseyside for COVID, Chief Constable at the time, one embarrassing, basically said, I don't want Chief Inspectors and above at home, with slippers on, cups of coffee, while we've got people rolling around, broken glass, and the nighttime economy, whatever. We need to show leadership. So Merseyside, we're at one end of the continuum. I would say the other, and I've told them, the other end of the continuum is Cumbria. Now, whether that was influenced by the geographical size of I don't know, but senior officers working in different stations, very far apart, and what happened is people really retracted from forced meetings and sort of meeting together. It was difficult to get them back. The first thing I went round, obviously, briefings, say what you need, what you want from a deputy, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is visibility. So there's one colleague, one chief inspector, who hadn't visited one of the main stations at any stage in 9 months. So we had to do something about that. So inspector and above went to one briefing a week, which means sitting having a cup of coffee, talking to colleagues for 20 minutes. It's not a big deal. You don't have to have a sleepless night, quite straightforward. And you had to do one tour of duty every 6 weeks. So that wasn't a suggestion, that was an instruction that was audited. So when the HMIC came and said, people talk about visibility, you could say, well, this is what we've done, we can prove it, this is how many we've done, these are the efforts we're making. And it really had an impact on morale, and people really responded to it in a really positive way. And it became the norm. So if you want to be a leader in this force, we expect you to wear a uniform, and we expect you to do this in terms of visibility. It's just the way it is. Okay, it's not for debate or discussion. And we're going to do that, something similar here. Started the vlogs and the promise. So the Chief Con's promise, you'll get letters on New Year's Day. We'll talk about the restructure. You'll get a promise of 10 or 12 things from me. One of them will be the uniform review. We're doing stuff already. And the other stuff will be, other investments, but I won't bore you with that. So So it's almost like, so I've supposed a lot of people say, this is what we like you to do. I just try to reassure you, I'm going to try and do it as quickly as I can. And people say, oh, you're moving a bit quick, aren't you? I said, hang on a second. What have you dealt with in Merseyside over the last 2 years? Tons of stuff. There's tons of stuff going to come in the future. It could come tomorrow. We haven't got time to pontificate. We know what to do. Let's just get on with it. Let's get it in as quickly as possible, and it's in for when the battle starts, whatever that is, the next challenge, and there will be many. So, what would I like to achieve? Well, I'd like to be able to click that next door. Right. So this is, I don't even remember Louise Kane, so I nicked Louise Kane from Merseyside up to Cumbria, did a great job. She's a national performance, Dr. Kane now, isn't she? And she, I always remember this thing she brought, presentation, high performing teams. I thought, I'm not really into this kind of stuff, but I thought it clicked with me that I get what she's saying there. I quite like it, so I've kept it and I've used it loads of times. And it's about the issues there, about trust, you know, the ability to engage, to challenge each other, accountability, all those different things. And that's the bit that bubbles up into results. So my goal, wherever I would be, where I've come from, where I am now, is to generate a culture of high-performing teams. That's what I want, where people feel supported, but they're actually performing, because they need to perform, because we're public servants, and we need to make people safe. That's the business we're in, so it's really, really crucial. I've just seen a reference there, actually. So if anyone wants to get a reference, please take it. So, the next slide. So I do this thing, anonymous quotes, okay. So I did it with the DDAT, Digital Data and Technology. I did it when I went to Merseyside. I'm not going to do a Merseyside one. I'm going to do something I did in my previous force, and I've moved it a couple of times, and we've all had a laugh about it in Cumbria. It's fine, you know, and I'll challenge myself. There's not an issue. So we had a strategic leaders day in Cumbria. We got them all in, and you know, performances start to really move. The metrics had really, the abandonment rates down at sort of 5%. We hit 90s on the call handling, on the response, all of that, and the outcome rate started. The qualitative metrics are starting to move. So it was really good food for thought. We're thinking all the things we put in are yielding results. It was deeply sort of reassuring at the time. So we got them all in and said, how's this? How are you thinking? You know, how are we all feeling? Do you think we've got a culture of high-performing teams? And of course, everyone put their hand and said, oh yeah, definitely, yeah, really good. But the head of crime got quite emotional, he really proud and said, this is the highest, best performance this force has ever had. I've been in here 30 years, it's never had a performance like this. Spot on, it's really, really good. We're making a name for the force and all the rest of it. It's really, really, really nice. I said, but do you think we've got a culture of high-performing teams? He went, yeah, and I think so. I said, I don't. I said, I'll tell you why. Because I'm going to come on to a slide now of comments that you lot have said, and this is why I don't think it's high-performance teams. Okay? So all those comments were made by, sorry, beg your pardon. Wow. Okay, sorry about that. So, all these comments are made by Chief Inspector, Police Officer or Police Staff Equivalent. So the first one is made by, it's not my job description to go to response briefings. The really interesting thing about this is, this Chief Inspector was in charge of the academy. Okay, so it's not my job. So that person did not think it was their job to go to a briefing with the people that had just come through that person's sort of structure and been led through the start of their journey in policing. They didn't think it was their job to go to response policing and see, how are you getting on? How's it all for you? Are you feeling supported? Next one is, I know you're all incredibly busy because of the focus on performance. It's irritating for a number of reasons. So performance, if you deliver milk and you're late delivering the milk, you might get dry, cornflakes. I'm not saying it's an important job, not an issue. The difficulty is in the police, and if you're late in the police service, someone may get carried on getting sexually assaulted or burgled. It's a different gig. Performance equals public safety. And you've got to keep on operationalising that. You made a deal with it. You wanted to be a public servant. Performance here, that we're in the business of public safety. So all the performance metrics are on about public safety. That's really, really important. The next thing is, this is a reference to me. So, he can't make us do stop and search. Well, so I can't make you go to the toilet, but I think it's a good idea if you need to. I can't make you do stop and search. If you're a police officer that doesn't think stop and search is that role, is like a postal worker with an aversion to envelopes. It's not a good business fit. It's not going to work out. It's not going to work out. And that was the view there. So this stop and search went from, it was like, I don't know, what was it? It was about 100, 150 a month to something like 800, 900. The Home Office rang, so you're making a mistake in the stop and search figures. You've clearly made a mistake, your figures. It was the highest increase in the country, but it only took us to average. It only took us to average. But that's the culture and the thought, thinking stop and search. And what they've been told is, you've got to be difficult because the yield isn't high enough. It was at 21%, by the way. And the increase, it stayed at 23% on the yield. So it's high anyway, and it stayed high. But they've been scared from not doing it, to stop doing it. How about this? I'm glad they didn't get through the paper sift. They just aren't ready. So that's the superintendent that signed them off to say they're ready to go for the promotion board. So they signed them to put them in the board. We've done the paper sift. And sift them out and goes, thank God they didn't go, they're not ready. You put them in. Your name's on it. The operations side of the house is flying. We just need some direction for police staff. Said by the second most senior member of police staff in the organisation. You like that? It was like it was like a silent moment, everyone looking, thinking, I'm sure you've just thrown you under the bus and the ACO under the bus, I'm sure. Anyway. We need to know when the next promotion process is being advertised so we can start preparing. It's not the golden hour, it's the golden year. The gun's gone off. Wake up. You should have a promotion action plan. You should be looking at your CPD. You should be trying to stand to the next rank. It's not, oh, that's a crack on here. I've got 3 weeks before the board. Better do something. It's not the way it works. And the last one is, which is particularly annoying, I shouldn't be worried, this is from a superintendent, this. I shouldn't be worrying about performance. I should be focused on strategy. What like a magic carpet just flying around eating cheese and biscuits? With personal assistants. Stop, hold on to Branston, I've had a great idea, write it down. I said to that person, tell me your 3 favourite strategies. If you're doing that many strategies, tell me your 3 favourite ones. Just looked at me as if it dropped from the moon. Unbelievable. I finished off by saying, you're doing a fabulous job, it's going really well, but it's not high performing culture. Because if I take 3 people out of this room, performance will collapse. If I take 3 people and they transfer tomorrow, without those 3 people, we've got to keep going. Okay? So it's that kind of thing. Choosing the leaders of tomorrow. So there's a little bit on this. So people of a certain vintage. Anyone know the film The Four Feathers? Getting some nods here. So it's the 1978 version, I remember as a little kid. Harry Faversham, it's okay, he gets a commission letter to the military. He intercepts it with his fiancée, wants to stay with his fiancée, I think it was, something like that, fallen in love, intercepts it, and he intercepts the letter of his 3 mates as well. His 3 mates find out, his fiancée finds out, and they give him 4 feathers. They're discussed with him. The 4 feathers for cowardice. Okay, they issue those 4 feathers. What they're telling me is, you've got to do something positive or an act of bravery to get rid of each feather. Now, I'm not saying I want that as a new PDR system. I think it'd be good. But that's why I've got, because in terms of putting your hand up to be a leader, takes, I think, courage. It does take courage. And you've got to be courageous when you're doing it. There's certain things you've got to do because you're crossing over that bridge. You're making that deal. No one knocked on my door to say, Rob, we're really worried about Merseyside Police. We want to join and we want to become a sergeant. No one did that. I didn't get that letter. No one was asked to be one. You might think you were in your wildest dreams. You weren't. You've decided that you want to take that path. So anyone that takes that path has got to have the right values. And for me, my personal ones are PIII. So public service, son of a nurse and a police officer, Chief Constable, public. I'm happy where I am in the pecking order. I'm fine with that. I'm cool with it. Integrity, inclusion in its widest sense. I want to be an employer of choice. I want everyone to feel comfortable. I haven't got all the answers. And the final one is industry. You've got to pull on the oar if you're a public servant. You've got to pull on the oar. I don't care whether you put it on the left hand, the right hand, both hands, high up, low, not interested. You can't be at the bottom of the boat sunning yourself when the rest of us are on the oars. You've got to join in. It's about, you want to be a public servant, you pull on that oar like the rest of us. Nobody's going to work at the same level. It's unrealistic. But you've got to contribute in some way because you're getting paid by the public. Leaders who own morale. Okay, so leaders have got to understand that their influence on morale. Morale's a big deal in all the turbulence, all those choppy waters we looked at the earlier slides. Leaders are the people that are going to steer us through it and take us through it. Okay, leaders are the people going to decide if it's an employer of choice. Leaders are the people that are going to make it public safety. Leaders are the people that are going to stop the attrition rates and improve ethical policing. Preparation, PDR, promotion action plan. I always say the same thing. People say, oh, I'm thinking of going for promotion. Brilliant. I think you're really good. I think you should do, if they are. Have you got a promotion action plan? No. We don't think you should. I said, put it on your PDR. Do it in your PDR. There's 6 or 7 things I can think of now. One of them's feedback, which you're getting off me. Put it in the action plan. And then in a year's time, when the promotion boards come up, you've got the evidence there audited. When your sergeant or your supervisor says to you, you never mentioned this before. He said, well, we had a conversation about it 12 months ago. Here's the action plan. I've completed all the action. It's about thinking about your preparation and the next rank and where you are. The next one is, this is where the courage comes, another example of courage. The courage to say I, not they. I can't tell you how many times I've heard sergeants or inspectors say they want us to do stop and search, or the chief wants us to do. What, you're a supervisor, you've got chevrons. What about you don't have to be aggressive, but you need to have the spine to say, I want you to do, I would like you to do, I require you to do. Because you've crossed the bridge, you've left the team, you're leading the team now. You've got to be able to say I. If you're not comfortable saying I, you're not ready. You can't keep on blaming responsibility and apportion it to someone else. Okay? That's flight, not fight. CPD, we've mentioned that's obvious. Investing in yourself. Things are changing so quickly, really, really quickly. I'm not a technology person, but I've had an insight, and I am completely converted. I understand the symbiotic relationship between technology and policing. Technology is policing now. I used to think technology was about people in suits who didn't wear ties, who wore trainers with the suits. It's not modern. It's not. We are absolutely need these people. We need these people, and we need a better relationship with private industry, so that we can say, we would like you to work on this, rather than private sector saying, we think you need that. But for us to say what we want, we need to understand the opportunities that exist within technology. So, as an example of that, and I don't, and I do a lot of work on it, as an example of that, we launched the digital strategy, relaunched the strategy in June. So we invited, I said, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to sleepwalk to the digital summit in October. I'm going to do something to prove we're taking the private industry seriously. So what we did is we got the leads of violence against women and girls, national emergency, into London with the private, with industry, all the big companies and consultants, and said, right, you present and tell them what your problems are leading violence against. What is it you're worried about? What do you need to do? Then you lot, having heard that, you tell them what you can do for them. So it's that kind of, they call it things like sandpit type stuff, and it's a bit weird, but you know what I mean. It's bringing people together so they can have a discussion and solve the problem. But that's the kind of thing we've got to do. Honest feedback, you'll be staggered how many people, I've heard people saying they're giving honest feedback, they've never ever been spoken to like that in their career. They've had what they don't realise, I've been sitting next door to them in an office with paper thin walls, and they're virtually giving them a pat on the back, and the person walks out and they go, whoof, they've never had to tell enough like that before. I'm looking, I'm thinking, you basically clapped them. You know, honest feedback. So, someone sent, I was a chief superintendent, when I was a chief superintendent here, someone sent one to me and said, go and speak to Rob if you want feedback, he'll give you some honest feedback. So this person came up to me, who I'm friends with the person, so it was a bit difficult. I said to this person, he says, I've come to get feedback, I would recommend it comes to you. I said, right, okay, it's fine. I said, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to tell you, do you want me to lie and just make it all up? Do you want me to tell you some truthful stuff and then 50% lies? Or do you just want me to tell you as it is? No one has ever said anything other than the third option. Tell me as it is. I said, are you absolutely sure you want me to tell you as it is? He said, yeah, tell me. I said, okay then. You're extremely charismatic, intelligent, you've got a brilliant mind, very well respected, incisive. The problem you've got is everyone thinks you are bone idle. Everyone thinks you're there's not a half a day's work and you think you're absolutely as lazy as sin. And this person could not believe what I was saying. Well, you ask, that's what people think of you in this organisation. You've got all the ability and the intelligence, but you're just lazy. So anyway, I said, because when you go in that interview room and they'll say your name, a bubble will come above the head of each of the board members in a millisecond. And they'll think good things without trying to, and things that concern them. I said, if you've got an idea about what they think of you, that's your chance to modify it and mitigate it in the interview. But if you don't understand yourself what other people say, you've got a problem. Anyway, so the person that recommended came to me for advice, came to see me after, we just had an interview with this person. He was absolutely fantastic. What did you say? He said, you need to kick the door off as he walked through the door. And I said, went through the door. And that's what I've tried to do. So I've carried on doing that. We had superintendent's process, chief inspector. It was my first week in Cumbria. I was on the, I was there with the chief, interviewing on these boards, and I didn't know the person. And I said, can you tell me how, my question, how you will deal with transformational change? I can't remember if that was the second bit, but it was, can you tell me how? So a backward-facing question is, give me an example of, in the rank you're in. The how question is, how will you in the future, the rank you aspire to, okay? One's evidence, one's what you're going to do, what you're going to give me as a superintendent. And that person said to me, they said, well, an example of that would be, and I said, stop. I said, I've given everyone else a warning in the process. I said, I'm going to give you one. I said, I didn't ask for an example. I said, I want you to tell me how you're going to do something as a superintendent. So they came back and said, I know, yeah, but I've been thinking about it, and I think it'd be better if I told you an example. So looking at them, it sounds quite irritated. I said, I'll tell you what, if I wanted an example, I'd ask for one. It's your last chance. Ask me how you're going to do it, or don't bother. Anyway, tell me how you're getting bumbled. It's more difficult to do, but you've got to understand what you're going into. That person came for feedback after. I came for personal feedback. I said, right, you have to feedback, okay, we can do it 3 ways. Exactly. I can make it all up and go half. I can tell you the truth. What do you want? He says, tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. It's great news. It's great news. You'd have to lie awake at night worrying about hitting the bar because you're so close, because you were miles off. Miles off. You're miles off because of this, and I'll tell you what you did, but I'll tell you how you can mitigate it, and we'll sort it, and we work together and all the rest of it. That person now superintendent. But anyway, I think honest feedback is really important, as long as it's constructive. So, positivity, dealers in hope. What's the next slide? Okay. Probably the next slide would have been better with the briefing thing, but I'll come to that in a second. Positivity, these are dealers in hope. The quote from Napoleon, I didn't realise that was him until I got that slide up. Actually, I've heard that quote before. Didn't realise it was him. Bit corny, but it's absolutely right. And I'll come on to that in a second. So, I've taken the mick really a little bit. I've been a bit sort of playful with some of the things. Let's have a laugh at me, okay? Let's have it, because you've got to be able to laugh at yourself. So, I went for the accelerated promotion board when I joined Merseyside Police shortly after. I was encouraged by the sergeant, you've got to go for the accelerated, you've got to go, you've got an ology. I've got an economics degree from a poly. He said, oh my God, you've just got to go for the accelerated promotion. It's got your name written up. I said, oh right, okay. So off you get pushed, you go here and there. And it was so bad that the feedback came back, I was appalling, not good enough for it, not good enough. Didn't have the confidence for it. And they were quite right too, I just wasn't at the level. And you've got to accept that, haven't you? Sometimes you're not at the level, you've got to work on it. But the feedback was, this officer's knowledge of Home Office circulars, because I was going about Home Office Circular 114 of 83 on manpower effectiveness and all the rest of it, is positively encyclopedic. I do, however, have concerns about his ability to lead anyone at any time. I'm actually going to frame that and put it on my thing. I'm going to frame that. I'm sort of quite proud of that, really. It's quite good. Then I went to get the feedback. I can't remember what the AC's name was. Love or something. I don't know, Steve? I don't know. I can't remember. Went to go in, and you walk in, there's your constable. You walk in, and he goes, Constable Carden, come in, sit down. I've been waiting like about 40 minutes outside. He was late by 40 minutes, I know what he's doing. Sit down, Constable Carden. I said, very good, sir, very good, sir. And he said something about call me so-and-so. That was his first name. I went, very good, sir. So stood like he goes, Constable Carden. And what he did, it wasn't the special course at the time, it was accelerated promotion. It used to be called a special course. So he was referring to it in old money. And he said to me, he says, do you know why you didn't get on the special course? I said, you weren't selected. I said, is it because I'm not special? And he went, Constable Carden, exactly right. You're not special. You're not special. Well done. Very good. Have a good day. Nice to see you. Off you pop. Just not special. So I suppose, in terms of those things, please don't think I'm a smarty pants saying this, that, and the other. I've learnt these lessons. I've had plenty of failures. Don't worry about that. I was 3 times to get through PNAC. The first time because it was rubbish. The second time because I shouldn't have gone because of personal circumstances, illness to wife, etc., etc. And that's about having the confidence to say, no, it's not ready for me. That's another thing. 1, are you ready? I wasn't. 2, is it right at the time? No, what? It's having all those things to say, it's not my time. It's not my time. And I worked it through in the end. And I remember telling Sonny Cook, he said, oh God, your feedback was excellent. He said, yes, you did really well, didn't you? You got fantastic marks. Well, I had a bit of practice. He goes, yeah, you have actually. And let's be fair, if you'd have failed it last time, it was your last chance. So it's a good job you got through, lad. Yeah, so suppose you think, in terms of your journey, I suppose for me, it sounds like corny, doesn't it? But everyone's got like a leadership or a personal puzzle. You've got to sort of understand yourself. I didn't go in for those management courses. In fact, I missed every one of them. I've made an excuse to go, and I went on public order course twice and the firearm course twice to avoid going on the management courses, and it probably tells. But the one thing I get from it is, do you get yourself? So when I go out of here and walk off here, and we all go our separate ways, you know, you'll have an opinion of me. I don't know what that's going to be, do I? I'll have to try and get a feel for it. You know, I'll have to be lad or something. You may think, I don't know, oh my God, he's in the advanced stage of drug use, that lad. Or, you know, he's passionate and, you know, he wants to do his best. You know, I don't know. But it's incumbent upon me to work out roughly how this has or hasn't landed. So it's the same as you as a leader. You go into a briefing, you stood in front of your section, you give the briefing, you walk out. What is your effect on that? What have you left? What's your gift? What have you left on them as you walk out? Do they all look round and go like that? I don't like to do a lot of management talk because I had a lot easier when my strategy is super simple because I haven't got not that bright and I need to understand it. And people don't want rafts of detail and they want it nice and simple. This is what we're doing. Let's go. That's how my personal take on it anyway. I have to do a demonstration here for the next one. So probably this slide should have been the one before. It should have come straight after your personal effect and how leaders land. So this links to dealers in hope. So here we are. You know, you've got quite a sparse briefing on the right, much bigger briefing, big briefing that on the left. Plenty of people there. Someone is given that. Someone is stood on the other side of them speaking to them. Okay, so at Carlisle Police Station, I'm a chief. I've gone up to Carlisle for an early morning briefing, got there about 6:30, waiting for the briefing to come on 7 o'clock, saying hello to everyone, and on they come, loads of people come in. You've got quite a horseshoe of people, quite a lot of people there for the morning. It's about double that. You also had a detective superintendent there, because they're doing their visibility rota. So you've got a detective super in there, you had a chief inspector in there, and we're sat there and I'm on the side. The sergeant is at the front, say here, about to go through the briefing. These are the dispositions for the day, whatever. And in comes, from the door there, you're on a horseshoe, an inspector. The inspector walks straight in, doesn't look at the briefing or the people, puts the head down and sits down like that. Doesn't look at the sergeant, doesn't look at me, doesn't acknowledge me, doesn't acknowledge any of the team. I mean, you don't have to like me, you've got to acknowledge the rank, I suppose. But the bigger insult was not saying good morning and nodding to the team. That's the bit I couldn't get my head around. I just couldn't get my head around that. So I'm sat there thinking, they've not interacted with their team yet. So let's have a look at this, how this goes. So the briefing goes on. I was there to congratulate them on the increase in stop and search, because that team were knocking it out the park. They were doing really good stuff. And they're all sat there, a lot of them young bobbies. Carries on. The thing finishes and we all go our separate ways. Well, before we do, the sergeant, as I knew they would, I thought, the sergeant always asks the inspector, do you want to say something? And he'll move round. He might give a nod to the other bits of rank there, but he'll come to me and he'll say, sir, is there anything you want to say? I bet you any money. It happens all the time. According to script perfectly, looks at the inspector and says, I won't say sir or ma'am. Do you want anything you want to say? I went, no. Went to the others, anything you want to say? No. So it comes to me, sir, anything you want to say? I've now got to get on a unicycle. I start juggling to try and recover this. I start saying, wow, what an amazing thing you're doing. Do you realise the impact you're having? Yours has gone up from that to that. And do you know, everyone's talking about fantastic, positive, 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 positive. So that's the thing about being a dealer in hope. Imagine that there, people in that crowd or that crowd there. Some of them have got caring problems, caring responsibilities. Some of them have got financial problems. Some of them have got relationship problems. Life's rich tapestry and complexity. There's a lot going on in life. The last thing they want is a sergeant or an inspector in the morning or whatever shift standing in front of them with a woe is me face. Give them something, for goodness sake. Give them some positivity. I'm not saying tap dance, we're all different. There's two things in leadership, isn't there, about being effectively. One is to know what to do, and that's the easy bit, because you haven't got all the answers you're going to ask people. The second bit is the ability to influence people. And that's the bit where you've got to understand yourself as a leader. You've got to how am I going to influence people? There's a lots of different ways of influencing people and behaviours to follow the strategy and deliver what you want to do for public safety. Lots of different ways. It's about strong leadership, and strong leadership is not about one-handed press-ups. Strong leadership is about understanding yourself and your individual leadership toolbox and using what you've been given to the best of your advantage. And I don't think that ever stops. You always find your way. I found when I got ill in 2017, I found out loads about myself, I found loads about the organisation, supervisors, friends, but you find out a lot about yourself, definitely. And my wife thinks I lost a couple of filters during that period, you know, so a bit less concerned. And I probably am. But you're always learning. You're always learning. But it's important. You decided to lead these people. So you've got to lead them, you've got to give them something. So knowing your effect. This is from Lou, this. I spoke to her, she put this through Copilot, this next one is great, I think it's really good. It just came up. So leadership and morale, the big things about leadership, clarity, clear direction, crystal clear, unequivocal, this is where we're going. Next one is action, do something, okay? Problem solve and don't be passive. Get hold of it and do your best. There's an answer, there's a way for everyone, there's an answer to everything. The answer's there, you just got to keep looking, it's there somewhere. And the other thing is positivity. You know, I'm not on about telling jokes, napping the goats and all that, but you've got to give them something. Reward and recognition, encouragement, reflection, support, all of that is absolutely key. And that comes back in terms of really resilience, purpose, and of course, the all-important motivation. In difficult times, policing, really difficult. And you can't please everybody. I found that out this week, other issues. I'm trying, but you can't, no matter how many toasters you give out. Do you know, by the way, you know the toaster thing? Just let's on the toaster thing while we're on it. So we gave 70 toasters out, okay. So the toasters, we tried to get the toasters in. I think, oh, do you all just want a hot piece of toast and a cup of tea when you come in? Yeah, but there's fire, the health and safety risk. He said, yeah, okay, but can we have a look at it? It says, we need to find idiot-proof toasters. I think you just put the thing down, don't you, and turn the dial, it just like pops up. Anyway, stuff with the reduced risk of a fire hazard. Anyway, I was always getting to the stage, it went on for about 4 or 5 weeks. There were such bigger decisions that were made more quickly. But it was almost like, can we find a way of doing it rather than not doing it? Because we are all allowed toasters. What they're doing is creating an even bigger fire hazard by sticking the toaster under the desk and smuggling them in. So anyway, long service the other week, walked out, and all my colleagues, we did a fantastic job doing the admin and the arrangements and coordinating these big events, which are really, really important. And no one does it better than Merseyside. You know, the previous chief cons have done a fantastic job. I've just got to keep it going. It's a wonderful, wonderful arrangements that's put on. And one went, hey, what's this about the toasters? I said, we haven't got one. I said, you're in headquarters. £2.50 slice of toast. £2.50. What are you going to do about that? You can't please everyone. Can't please everyone. Got to keep trying. Anyway, in summary, building support and protecting the workforce. I virtually gave this presentation not far off the Police Supers Association. They said, come and do a talk at the Supers Association. I said, what on? We want to know how your previous force, Cumbria, got the outstanding in building, supporting and protecting the workforce. That's the bit where the link between morale is made. I'm very proud of getting that. It's only the second force that ever got that thing. If you're talking about inclusion, well-being, support, you can't get that grade without investing in that and taking it seriously. It's not possible. So we went through it. I suppose in summary, this presentation, I'd wrap it up with those what are the 5 bullets. It is a complex and challenging environment. It'll never not be. I don't think it ever won't be. It's just the way it is. Policing is complex and difficult. It's not going to get suddenly down the elevated road and all the flowers, it won't. It's going to be tough. Morale definitely drives performance. And don't forget what performance is in our business. The name of our business is, the name of the game is public safety. So if we don't get morale, we ain't getting public safety. That's how important and crucial it is. Morale is a daily referendum on leadership. It's perpetual. There's no end of the road. You don't get to it and say, we finished it now, tick, we're done. I had it to a point in Cumbria, it was absolutely, the place was bouncing. So we're on the move here. I can feel it, we're on the move. And then we had to get more people in Cumbria. There's a strange situation, small force, rural force, a couple of anomalies, one of which are police officers as call handlers. So I wanted to get them out to put them on response or neighbourhood and train police staff call handlers so we could amplify or increase, the number of naval police officers. One of the things we do, the pain that caused taking officers from jobs they'd done. And if you looked at the layers in the organisation, people would say to me, we're getting our duties moved every 3 minutes, and there's a layer of our police colleagues who have the same tea break, the same coffee break, the same situation every day, and you would not believe that they do not encounter the choppy waters. There's something about fairness there. That's what I had. I thought, do you know what, it's right. I don't know what it's like now, because it's sort of June-ish, it's sort of, I'd handed over. But I know at the time of leaving, we wouldn't have, if we'd have got inspected, it might do now, I don't know. But at that time, say May, April, there's no way that my force as it was then would have got outstanding. I would have been fighting for good, because it's so difficult. It changes all moving sands. And sometimes it's really frustrating, but it's knowing that challenge, you've got to keep going. How are we doing on time, by the way? What time is it? 7. Oh, brilliant, I've done it, no questions. Love it. Anyway, let's wrap up. So, leaders must own morale. I can speed up now. Morale has no finish line. Told you about that. Told you about the control room. Yeah, employer of choice, that's it. Well, I was going to say questions, but we finished. But listen, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.